creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
What we see with those glaciers as they're receding, the margin is moving backwards, see? And moved up and moved up. When we look at the Laurentide, the big ice sheet, or the Cordilleran at the end of the last ice age, it's not really behaving like that. It looks like, rather than just marginal recession, which there was, but there was also what appears to be point centers of melting. How do we determine those points? As we study the landscape, what have been under the glaciers. Drumlins, I think, are the key.
I have seen videos of objects. I can't tell you exactly what they are. And I say that because I'm saying I saw it and I can't tell what they are, and neither could the people that filmed them. But it's definitely not. It's something that's wild, very, very, like, defies logic. The way in which they operate, often, even, across, there's multiple locations, but what you're often seeing is these glowing type orbs. They look like balls of plasma that seem to be stationary, and then sometimes they'll just move at incredible speeds. So we don't, I don't know what that is, and I don't think that our intelligence community knows what these things are.
Maybe biblical angels or demons? But let me know in the comment.
The coming housing collapse in 180 seconds. Let's go back to Bill Clinton. Clinton was a real estate swindler and a drug kingpin governor, running cocaine and crack through Arkansas via Barry Seal. This movie whitewashed the true government involvement. And L.D. Brown said he facilitated human trafficking for Clinton. Clinton was the perfect puppet to throw up after Bush. He gave us the crime bill, which expanded legal human trafficking and wiped out drug dealing competition. His crime syndicate offed at least 50 people, even Vince Foster, a childhood friend. Clinton effectively got rid of Glass-Steagall, which contributed to the '08 collapse, causing vertical integration and the consolidation of banks. This forced bailouts to be a part of the system. The Telecommunications Act accelerated propaganda, which slowed the public's responses to banking crises. And the Telecoms Act gave us the dot-com bubble. The CFMA contributed to the derivatives crisis that we're currently in. Look, see? Which brought us things like the Enron scandal. 9/11 swept investigations like that under the rug. Look. He also brought us the WTO, which brought us the China files on top of the NAFTA destruction of the economy. Obviously, Clinton was controlled by the tiny hats via the Lewinsky debacle, among others. Then we get another fake election to swap puppets to keep up the fake left-right paradigm. Bear Stearns was the first domino in the 2008 collapse. They worked with Epstein to hide toxic assets to inflate their value. Look, see? Yup. All banks were doing this. One big family. This is the collapse in a nutshell. Guys like Roman Abramovich and Epstein initiated the '08 collapse. See? Collapses allow these institutions to buy up the monopoly board and raise your rent and mortgages. Then we have financial fascism with BlackRock stepping in. These are the biggest landlords on earth, buying up everything and making everyone renters. They're all one company, basically. And Citadel controls a large sum of the trading. Look. See? And I have to mention the drug trading. Every wave of drugs, heroin, cocaine, crack, the opioid epidemic, they create the real estate market. Then we get another fake election for the left-right paradigm illusion, which is why Obama continued the bailouts. Then we get another fake Clinton election to get Trump in. They stole the primary from Bernie Sanders and let her destroy the evidence. Come on. They own all the horses in the race and they use the momentum of the public against itself. Then Trump massively expands the money supply as well as Biden, which created the high interest rates. We're way worse off than '08. Just look at the repo market. Unsustainable. Completely over-leveraged. The derivative domino is coming. It's coming. This is how the financial reset will go. Bailouts and bail-ins are coming. Better be ready to take care of the old folks. There will be no Social Security in the near future. You will have a social credit score, UBI, and a 50-year mortgage. They won't do it all at once, and they won't strip you of everything. Giving you a little bit gives them control. The first few years of the transition won't even be that bad to rope people in.
He who controls the spies controls the universe. Dune, 1984. The spies must flow.
This just in, law enforcement is cracking down on elites tied to the Jeffrey Epstein scandal everywhere except for the United States. Because this week in France, authorities raided the Paris arm of the Edmond de Rothschild Bank in an Epstein-linked probe. And Ariana de Rothschild, who employed Jeffrey Epstein, was present during the search. Department of Justice files reveal that Epstein received tens of millions from the Rothschilds for the work. In an email that he sent to Peter Thiel, he bragged about it. While France's investigations continue, many Americans see Europe taking far stronger action against Epstein's network than the U.S. authorities have. Still no arrest, still no investigation. The raid follows Epstein-related arrests of prominent Europeans, including Prince Andrew and Peter Mandelson. Why has real accountability been so slow or nearly non-existent?
I think he just theatrical arrest. What do you think?
That's Adam and Eve and the snake. That's a blue snake and Adam and Eve right there. This is the Singing Tower in Florida.
Bach Tower Gardens in Lake Wales, Florida, was created by philanthropist Edward W. Bach, opening in February 1929, dedicated by President Calvin Coolidge.
Check out that door right there. Check out that door right there.
The Great Brass Door is the only entrance into the Singing Tower, and it's considered the masterpiece of Samuel Yellen.
This thing is gigantic, bro. Gigantic.
Look at that.
There's so much going on in here, fam. There's so much going on. Oh, look, in the top, in the middle there, that's a perennial pine cone right in the middle. Right there, right there. Those 14-foot tall birds. This thing is wild. Behind me, you'll see the Singing Tower in Lake Wales, Florida. It's 205 feet tall and sits atop Mount Iron, which is one of the tallest points in the Florida Peninsula. Can you see that? Can you see that? Yo, look at that sundial. Look at that sundial. This is on the Singing Bach Tower. It's 205 feet tall in Lake Wales, Florida. Look at that sundial, fam. Look at that sundial and the zodiac going all the way around it.
The zodiac sundial contains layers of esoteric symbolism that bridge ancient mysticism and nature-based philosophy.
Look at that sundial, dude. And it's got the zodiac all the way around it, all the way around it. This is in Lake Wales, Florida. Lake Wales, Florida.
The most striking esoteric element is the bronze snake that acts as the gnomon, the shadow caster. The word gnomon in Greek is for one who knows or one that examines. Esoterically, the snake's shadow knows the exact cosmic alignment of the earth, acting as a bridge between terrestrial time and celestial order.
Mr. Bach, the curator, is actually buried right there. Right there. You see that stone? He's buried right there. And this whole door is about the book of Genesis. The book of Genesis. The Singing Tower.
Who found them?
I think all of humanity is ready for this one. This art installation can make some of the most detailed cymatic patterns you've ever seen in your life. It is a highly polished metal bowl, and when the light reflects down on it, it reflects the beautiful cymatic patterns on the ceiling. He even shows you how the pattern continues underwater. Puts the camera inside of one, and you can see the light bending in the water. This is cymatics, and the study of it is about to change everything. This is the first ever picture of a molecule taken by IBM and published by HuffPost in 2009. This is a cymatic pattern. Just sound traveling through water made that pattern. It looks the same because the patterns resonate down to the quantum level. The distribution of quantum particles lines up exactly with this, which is the theory of everything in mathematics. Both share a symmetry of 26.9 hertz. That pattern is also the perspective used in the Florence Cathedral Dome, one of the most famous art pieces of all time. It's a temple ceiling in India. This is one of the most famous synagogues in the world. The boundaries of religion can be bridged by sonic symmetry. This is one of the most famous cathedrals in the world. Art, science, and philosophy used to be one study. This is reflected in the earliest civilizations. They used this as a tool to teach the interconnectedness of all life through sound. They realized this resonates with your DNA. Feeling is epiphany. It's the aha moment. Feeling of understanding is addicting. Everything is connected this way, from the temple architecture to the mantras. Even the smallest details were used as a lesson. We are the only culture that separates our studies. The only way to stop is to bring it back together.
Oh no, Iran has secret weapons deadlier than nukes. Ah! You guys know nukes don't exist, right? Well, not on any level that they want you to think they do, at least. Or notice how all nuke plants are on water. Nuclear plants are almost always located near a large body of water. And when it says almost, there's one that's not in Arizona, and it still has tons and tons of water shipped to it. And you see all this scary nuclear pollution? Well, it's just steam, because nuclear power plants are just making energy from boiling water. Yes, at a fundamental level, most nuclear power plants function like enormous high-tech steam engines. They use heat from splitting atoms to boil water into steam, which then spins the turbine to generate electricity. They're giant water-boiling electricity plants. There's no nuclear energy coming from it. Well, maybe there is, but nuclear sure sounds a lot like new, clear energy. Like, clear like water. So yes, I'm telling you, nuclear bombs don't exist. I'm not even really sure atomic bombs do anymore, because have you ever seen the footage from the supposed atomic bomb testing? Now watch some of this with a discerning eye, and you tell me it's not just a little miniature town being blown up instead of a giant fake town like they say. Use a discerning eye.
This house was 6,000 feet from ground zero. Other homes that were closer were incinerated.
Where's the camera?
It's a miniature model.
Everybody. 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay, now cut. It's black. A big explosion. And the miniature models. This is supposedly real footage from a... Watch how this moves. No, seriously. Watch how this moves. It's just a fake miniature model that they're using to put people into a fear state so they can control their minds. Same thing going on up there today. A fallen angel named Franklin Roosevelt, a.k.a. Ryan Gosling, once said, "There's nothing to fear but fear itself." And for once, they weren't lying to you. Have no fear, my friends. They're trying to scare and divide us. And unfortunately, it's working. A lot of you have a lot of waking up to do. And it starts by doing this. Click.
Man, I hope you're right.
Andromedans tell you that the Alpha Draconans are here now. Where?
There are 1,833 of them that have been living underground between 100 and 200 miles beneath the surface. They've been here, some of them have been here a long, long time. They have lifespans that are thousands of years. They're carnivorous. They are not friendly to mankind, at least the ones that are here.
Are you saying carnivorous, they eat humans?
Yes. And they won't eat a dead human. It has to be alive at the time of the killing. Their preference is children. And we've been told you shouldn't talk about that. There are other people say, well, you better not talk about the reptilians. Well, bull. Why not? According to the Andromedans, they're responsible for 31,712 children disappearing in the last 25 years from the United States. These children were food. And I'm supposed to just shut up and not say anything about it because people don't want to hear it? That's tough. Westchester County, in the last 5 years, 3,000 children in Westchester County, New York, have vanished without a trace. Where are they going? Why are we allowing this to happen? Why should people stay in denial about it?
Now, how are they able to do this? How are they able to do it? How are they able to come up out of this from underground and do it, or do they have...
There are tunneling systems everywhere. They're being helped by the Greys, and also there are groups within the higher echelon that are actually helping them acquire this.
So human beings are abducting the kids and getting them to the Greys, who in turn give them to the Alpha Draconans?
That's right. That's part of the deal. They won't come up as long as we feed them down there. You understand? It's about human beings selling themselves out. The echelon attitude here, the needs of the few outweigh the needs of humanity. And sorry, that just isn't right. But it's going to have to be humanity that's going to rise up and take the stand. You're just going to have to turn off your televisions. They're going to have to get in their car. They're going to have to fire everybody in Washington, D.C. that knows and does nothing. And they're going to have to do something. This apathy's got to end. Otherwise, the way we live is going to end. Period. I mean, that's the bottom line. And I'm not coming from a fear space. I'm really quite angry about the apathy and the fact that, when people give lectures and try to tell this, people want to stand up and fight with them. Look at what's happening around us. The indications are everywhere. Everywhere. The truth is now an obscure thing. The lie is the norm. There's something wrong here. What's wrong with this picture?
Yep, he's not alive. Google it.
They want you to look up. We now have celebrities telling us that the sun is not normal all of a sudden. Videos starting to go viral again of crazy noises in the sky. And then remember what Tucker just did? Yeah, Amazon now has a special on it and the news is talking about it. Remember right when Tucker posted that video about those things? I was like, why they want us paying attention to the sky? And also not relevant at all. It's time for nice blue skies. Why? So first, this was posted by Grant Cardone's brother. Big money, Check it out.
If you think this is normal, then, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, I can't even look close to the sun. Unbelievable. This is not magnified any. You want to see magnified? There you go.
Now just watch as the billions of people who called us crazy are now telling us there's something wrong in the sky with the sun. And right after Tucker Carlson did his video on this, like clockwork, we have the news covering it and Amazon making movies about it. Are you serious? Yeah, I'll put your thinking cap on for 1 second. You know how long it takes to make a documentary? Of course, completely unrelated from Tucker. I mean, wow, the coincidence on how they both did that at the same exact time, right? I truly wonder what they want us paying attention to in the sky. By the way, completely irrelevant, we have this Dr. Abby coming out constantly on the news saying that this thing is absolutely an alien spaceship through Atlas. Members of Congress saying the same thing. And now the terrified Florida residents because the crazy banging in the sky.
So we all just got woken up to some disturbing sound all through the whole area. I just called 911 and they said they've gotten like over 50 calls about it.
That's wild, right? Oh, completely irrelevant. You remember all the solar storms that we just had? It's crazy how so many people will not believe something until the news says it.
Jesus himself said that there's going to be some strange things in the sky before he returns.
You know that a U.S. military officer claims he touched an alien craft and received a terrifying message about humanity? December 1980. A RAF Bentwaters, England. Multiple American servicemen witness a triangular craft landing in nearby Rendlesham Forest. This wasn't just a few drunk soldiers seeing things. Deputy Base Commander Colonel Charles Halt himself led the official investigation. What they found flooded his mind telepathically. For years, he couldn't understand what it meant. When the code was finally decoded, the message contained coordinates to ancient sites worldwide. Stonehenge, the pyramids, sacred places across the globe. But buried within the data was a phrase that haunts investigators to this day. Exploration of humanity. With dozens of military witnesses, official reports, and audio recordings, this remains Britain's most credible UFO encounter. The question isn't whether it happened. It's what they wanted with us.
There have been other orders of civilization that utilize completely different energy regimes. We built a civilization on fossil fuels, essentially. And fossil fuels is not the only source of energy upon which we could build a civilization. I think we are at a different technology. I can't prove it, but there's so much circumstantial evidence. Definite possibility, if I had to conjecture, I would believe on plasma, based upon the utilization of plasma, the fourth state of man.
He was told that there were 3 giants there. They killed 2 and 1 got away. I think so many people, when they hear the story of the Kandahar giant, they're like, oh, it's a one-off.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to a guy named Ray who was adopted out of his Afghanistan family. He was raised American, reconnected with that side of the family as an adult, winds up meeting his grandmother in Afghanistan, or his uncle, I think it was. And his uncle tells him how when they were kids growing up, their mom, so Ray's grandmother, would take a goat out into the mountains and sacrifice it to the giants. She would feed the giants goats as like almost like a peace offering.
Wow.
Years ago, I had a guy who listened to the show. I don't know if he still does, but he was in the military. He would go out in Afghanistan while he was there, just asking people around just different things about the area. And when he would bring up giants, he said a lot of times people would either clam up or just act like they have no idea what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And one guy told him that there was a very specific location in Afghanistan that shares the border with China, which is about a 30-mile stretch. It's a natural preserve. And he said there's giants up there. That's why nobody goes up there.
Wow.
So like in the Middle East, there's this legend of giants that are walking the earth today.
Sure. I still believe that. Yes, absolutely.
And even here in the States, people talk about it. You know, Utah is wild with legends.
Yes, yes.
So my thought is if the rise of the Nephilim is coming, like you were talking about the technology and all that, but I think the last point you made was actual giants.
Absolutely. 100%.
Maybe Great Wall was to keep the giants out. What do you think?
It's the most studied artifact ever.
Damn.
Like particle physicists, nuclear engineers, they all studied it. And some believe in it, some don't believe in it, but they all agree on one thing. No one knows how they did it.
Right.
There's
no one knows
paint,
how they made it.
There's no paint. There's no dye.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's mind blowing.
Like if no one has come up with a theory of how to do that today, that's where it gets really interesting. The right one's the back and the left one's the front. That's crazy.
No one knows how they did it. The people that believe that it's real believe that when he was resurrected, some kind of burst made that image because that image has never been on any other shroud. People get buried in shrouds all the time. There's never an image like that.
Jesus' receipt paid in full.
The man who invented breakfast cereal tortured children's genitals, and America made him rich.
Now, what you're about to hear, every single parent deserves to know this.
John Harvey Kellogg ran a medical asylum where he treated masturbation. His cure was pouring acid on girls' clitorises and circumcising boys without anesthesia so they'd remember the pain. This is well documented. He wrote about it proudly. His solution to suppress sexual desire in children was bland processed grains. That is literally why cornflakes exist. His brother took that recipe and made Kellogg's, now worth $20 billion. Today, they hide inflammatory grains and toxic dyes behind talking tigers and toucan birds. Red 40, Yellow 6, all banned in other countries, fed to your children every day. These dyes are linked to hyperactivity, aggression, and learning issues. The same company that started with child torture now uses cartoons to sell chemical-laden grains that inflame your kid's brain and gut. How do you think your kid's behavior would change if they weren't getting drugged by ultra-processed garbage every morning? Listen, you already know what your kids need. You don't need a corporation that tortured children to tell you what to feed them. I believe every parent has an internal wisdom about their child's needs, but we've all been programmed to trust corporations over our instincts, to follow their schedule, their most important meal of the day. Trust yourself instead. You know when your kids are actually hungry and what they actually need versus their programming that tells them to expect inflammatory grains at 7 a.m. They used to torture kids, now they use cartoons to poison them, and they're still trying to control how you feed your family. Maybe it's time to take your authority back. Share this with another parent who deserves to know who's behind their kid's breakfast.
All their products should be boycotted. No excuse.
We are talking about a blood moon. Yes, a total lunar eclipse.
I just remember the number 3. It's the third month, the third day at 3 o'clock at 33 minutes. That is an amazing lineup. Third month, third day, third hour, 33 minutes. AM at the maximum. It's about 33 degrees above the southwest horizon. I've never seen anything like this where the numbers all line up, except for the year. Now, most people need to remember that it's happening on the night of March 2nd. It's in the morning of March 3rd.
The only total lunar eclipse of 2026 is coming overnight March 2nd to 3rd, and about 2.5 billion people can see at least part of it. If you are in much of the United States, Canada, or Mexico, plus parts of East Asia and the Pacific, you have a shot at seeing totality.
Adam unto Christ are 3,974 years, 6 months, and 10 days. And from the birth of Christ unto this present year is 1815. Then the whole sum and number of years from the beginning of the world unto this present year of our Lord God 1815 are 5,789 years, 6 months, and the said odd 10 days. And it lists the creation date 4004 BC. Here's my 1863 Cassell Publishing House Bible. And again, right at the front, the creation date is 4004 BC. 4004 BC, the date of creation, to the year that they were writing or editing the Bible, 1815, was 5,789 years, 6 months, and 10 days. And since then, it's been 211 years. 2026 is the 6,000th year.
Pretty cool, but let's remember, no man knows the hour or the day, but there will be signs.
The main thing they want you to believe is the supernatural is not real. Their main interest is in convincing you that the supernatural is not real. Why has that been so important for 80 years? For you to convince me the supernatural is not real. Why do you care if I think the supernatural is real? And then you have to ask motive. Like, it's not a profit motive. Like, does it make them rich to deny that there's supernatural forces? No. What is that? And I don't know the answer, but the obvious answer is, well, because they sort of know they're working for supernatural forces, actually. But that they take physical form, that they're not just like some ethereal, they're not just shadows floating around, specters, fog, that they're physical. Like, they're as real as the arm of your chair. People are subject to the supernatural, so they do things that are not natural, like kill themselves. That's why we're the only species that kills itself, right? So when you kill yourself, whether slowly or all at once, you're being acted on by forces outside of you, spiritual forces, obviously. Just trying to apply logic here.
This is Theban script. That is the ancient script that the Templars would typically use. Theban. We also have documentation from Bill Jackson's estate that he gave to Don when Mark Jackson, in 2004, he's now an adult, signed an agreement with Don to turn over all of his dad's research. And in that research were a series of corresponding letters back and forth between the cryptographer that was in the agency with Bill and Don and Dan, a guy named Dave Ryan. He was the cryptographer and the computer expert. And they eventually translated, after they decoded it, into English. And I want to read to you what it says. And Misha, the daughter of Elizabeth, sister of John the Baptist, of the river Jordan, took the red wine with the poppy in it, having been there for 7 days, and gave it to the soldiers, saying, a gift from the Arimathian. Then came Ishmael, the brother of Benjamin and the Magdalea, Mary Magdalene. The soldiers are asleep. They drugged them with poppy.
What?
Oh, okay. Remember? Yeah. Took the wine with the poppy in it, gave it to the soldiers. Now they're sleeping, so they drugged them. We lift up Jesus and took him to sleep with his ancestors, but Ishmael with his new beard stayed. This basically says that they took Jesus out of the tomb, substituted somebody else. So when the soldiers woke up, they probably went, oh shit, we're fucked. I mean, I don't know.
Pure blasphemy, straight from the pits of hell.
Iran isn't just in crisis. It's guarding one of Earth's last sealed stargates. And right now, the land known as Iran or ancient Persia is going through a revolution. But the news won't tell you the real reason why. You see, beneath the protests, the bloodshed, and the blackout lies the Abaddon Stargate, which is a very valuable piece of real estate on Mother Earth, Stargate 10. Whoever controls these important pieces of real estate controls Mother Earth. Abaddon, Iran is a pre-fall access point which has been used by fallen angelics to trap the solar masculine, suppress the divine feminine, and broadcast martyr codes across the globe through this energetic portal.
Then why doesn't Iran control the earth already?
What if one of Canada's most iconic buildings wasn't actually built when we were told it was? The Alberta Legislature building officially opened in 1912. When construction began in 1907, Edmonton had only about 12,000 people. Most residents lived in small wooden houses, basic frontier buildings, and many of the streets weren't even paved. In fact, early Edmonton was so muddy it earned the nickname the Mud Capital. If you know, you know. So here's the question. If the city struggled with mud roads, limited plumbing, frontier, and harsh winter conditions, how did such a massive Greco-Roman building suddenly appear? We are told that the structure was built with granite shipped from Vancouver Island, sandstone from Calgary, and terracotta imported from England. And the marble columns weighed up to 16 tons. All of this in a young frontier town where hundreds of other buildings were already under construction. And beneath the legislature grounds today, there are tunnels connecting government buildings and other infrastructure. Apparently the tunnels were constructed in the 60s and 70s, but I have yet to be able to find a single picture of that project. At the time that the building was supposedly constructed, the city still hadn't even prioritized paving the streets. Imagine pulling tons of material to and from the build site via horse and buggy during winter's freeze-thaw cycles and whenever it rained. Even stranger, many settlers coming from the United Kingdom were supposedly seeking opportunity and a more democratic society where the common man had a voice. Yet one of the earliest monumental projects completed in this rough frontier town was a 185,000 square foot Greco-Roman style government building towering over the entire city at 187 feet. Of course, historians say the building was constructed between 1907 and 1913, but when you compare the scale of the building with the conditions and dwellings people were living in at the time, it raises some interesting questions. Was it simply ambition and optimism for a growing province, or could there be more to the story of the Alberta legislature than we are told?
I love this. Edmonton conspiracy stuff. Keep people curious.
This is pretty cool. This is mercury. It's pretty toxic, but it's magnetic. But what it can do is going to blow your mind. It has similar properties to water in terms of interactions with vibrations. That is because it's a liquid, but it is a liquid metal, which makes it very interesting. When you push a current through it, it starts to spin. Now, in electrical systems, if we put power into something, we can make it do stuff. If we reverse the process, we can generate electricity. Now, I posted a video a while back about Plasma Channel taking a drone with a piece of metal up into the air and connecting it to the ground with a metal wire. He powered a Corona motor with this. That's because there's a ton of voltage up in the sky. So I got an idea. We plug one of these balls into a pole in the sky like an outlet. And we put some mercury in that ball and spin it, creating a vortex, pulling electricity into the ground. It's not going to make a lot of power. So I Googled how to double that, and they showed me this resonator that can double it. So once we grab it, I'm going to put this right under it, and I made it this design because I Googled how energy flows the best, and that's what it showed me. But I want to share this. So I Googled how to send it, and it showed me this antenna. So I put it on top of the design, and that's finally what I came up with. We could even share it with like a greenhouse to grow crops in the winter. Or we could share it with like anybody. We just have to make our cities look more like that, kind of. I'm about to file a patent so no one can steal this idea.
He just discovered the Tesla Tower.
You believe the elites are actually practicing magic? Yes, and so are you. You're just doing it badly because you don't know what you're doing. So I'm going to give you a lesson. Part 2. If you want to see part 1, you can find it pinned to the top of my profile. So lesson 2. Perspective changes everything. The world around you is made of stuff, right? Of tables and chairs, of owls and bears, of you and me, of poo and pee. Except if you change your perspective, you'll see that all of this stuff is actually made of the same stuff. It's actually all made of atoms, and there's no table atoms and chair atoms or you atoms and me atoms. The atoms are all elemental, right? Gold atoms, hydrogen atoms, helium atoms, iron atoms. Except if you change your perspective and look more closely, you'll see that the atoms are all made of the same stuff. They're made of nuclei, of protons and neutrons and electrons. And there's no hydrogen electrons or iron neutrons or gold protons. They're all just negatively or positively or neutrally electromagnetically charged. Now, each of these perspectives is true. The thing that varies is how useful each perspective is depending on the situation that you're applying it to. Quantum entanglement suggesting that reality is non-local and the space between objects kind of doesn't exist is interesting. Unless you're planning a trip to the grocery store, in which case you have to travel from your house to the grocery store, regardless of what quantum entanglement theory might suggest. This perspective is not useful in those circumstances. And as we covered in part 1, the goal of the magician is to achieve understanding and mastery of reality. And since the reality that you experience takes part mostly in your head, that means that mastering reality and mastering yourself are the same thing, which includes the ability to consciously choose perspective, not necessarily necessarily based on what is most true, but what is most useful. By utilizing the power of cognitive dissonance, which is believing contradictory things at the same time. For instance, if you wish to become a more confident, competent, conscientious, and kind version of yourself, you can craft and visualize a very clear idea of what that version of yourself would be. Then through a process of ritualism or affirmation or meditation or symbolic sacrifice to discipline and self-flagellation, really whatever works for you the best is the most useful. You functionally hypnotize yourself into believing that you are this version of yourself, that it's already true. And once you believe it's true, it is. Except you know it's not, because if you believed it was already true, you wouldn't have to hypnotize yourself into believing it in the first place. But that perspective isn't useful. We know that the body processes fear, anxiety, and stress in much the same way as eagerness and excitement. If you can convince yourself that the situation you're worried about is actually a challenge that you're eager to overcome because of how badass you're going to be, shrugging it off like it wasn't a problem, then you've changed the nature of what the situation is by changing the nature of how you were looking at it. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, but people deciding what to believe based on what they think is most useful rather than what is actually true is like how the most terrible ideas in the history of the world exist. And yes, that's true. Hence the opening line of people are doing it badly because they don't know what they're doing. This is a tool. Tools are not good or bad. They are what you use them for. A hammer is a very useful tool if you build something useful with it. If you use it to hit somebody in the head, it's destructive. And nothing is potentially more destructive than someone using a very powerful tool that they don't know how to use properly.
By that logic, people who pull themselves out of poverty are magicians?
Well, I think that the Bible's pretty clear that humanity was not its only creation. And I'm not saying that these are, items that were addressed in the Bible, but it is interesting that if you look at historical context and also documents that have existed throughout time in humanity, and we can get probably into a whole nother topic on that, but you read into the book of Enoch, a lot of this advanced technologies is potentially referenced then. And so all I'm saying is that from a national security perspective, we, the American people, deserve to know what the government has. They shouldn't be hiding it, and that's what we're here to push for.
Yeah, we do.
Yep, if you see a figure dressed like this walking towards you, do not approach them, as we are watching an eerie omen unfold in front of us, and what happens next might be a nightmare. People were terrified after figures covered in crosses began appearing in public for the first time in decades. With experts warning, these are the only people on Earth whose sole purpose was to pray for humanity every single day, and if they're walking away from that, something very wrong has just started. Reports show, as according to Orthodox tradition, these monks were told to never abandon the mountain until a sacred icon departs, meaning their departure itself is a sign that something catastrophic will start or has already begun. But it gets much stranger, as one of the most famous among them, named Elder Paisios, warned that when the people in Rome leave, it would be due to wars and great cataclysm. And with strikes and escalating conflict happening right now, it is unfolding exactly as he said, week by week. Named Schema monks, do you believe it's related, or was this one monk just on a smoke break?
Even though I don't agree with Martin Luther on everything, I just want to read you the first paragraph of this book that I don't think I'm going to be able to say the name of, so I'll just show it to you. I had made up my mind to write no more, either about the small hats or against them. But since I learned that those miserable and accursed people do not cease to lure to themselves even us, that is, the Christians, I published this book so that I might be found among those who opposed such poisonous activities of these small hats, and who warned the Christians to be on their guard against them. I would not have believed that a Christian could be duped by these small hats into taking their exile and wretchedness upon himself. However, the devil is the god of this world, and wherever God's word is absent, he has a very easy task.
Wherever God's word is not present, he has a very easy task. Nice bar.
Into this prediction for Easter Sunday, the more interesting it gets. Let me tell you about it. A couple days ago, I made a video about this man, Chris Bledsoe. He was abducted by extraterrestrials in 2007. Then later he had a vision of an event that would happen on Easter Sunday, 2026, a week from now. By the way, he first talked about that vision in public in 2012. Anyway, he was told in the vision that on Easter Sunday, 2026, a bright red star would be above the Sphinx in Egypt. And that would be the sign that aliens, extraterrestrials, are going to announce themselves to the people of the earth. Now remember, he said this in 2012, that during this time there would be a war between Iran, Israel, and the United States. That orbs would rise out of the ocean and people of the world would see this. But there's something else about this story that just clicked to me. The Space Force logo that was made years ago. Do you know what it looks like? This is it. The United States Space Force logo. Look at that for a second. Sphinx? It's a Sphinx with a star over its head. A giant star over the Sphinx. Yeah, just like the story Chris Bledsoe said in 2012, way before Space Force was even a thing. So why is the Space Force logo almost exactly like his story? Coincidence, or did they know something too? I guess we'll all find out on Easter, which is about a week away. Shabadoo Bushkis, Shabadoo.
Nothing coincidence.
Jimi Hendrix faked his own death in the 70s and has come back, drum roll please, it says here, researchers claim, as Morgan Freeman. They look a bit identical.
Yeah, they actually, there's a broad nose there. I can see it.
They actually look very, very similar. Look at Ryan. He's frightened by this information.
Jimi Hendrix's voice was not Morgan Freeman's voice.
Well, if you're going to fake your own death, you'd come back maybe with some different vocal cords.
Well, you come back and suddenly you...
Look, his teeth are different. His teeth are a bit different.
Yeah, but everyone's got different choppers now.
But also, you'd have to try and look a bit different. You can't come back and look exactly the same. What's the point?
Does Morgan play the guitar left-handed?
They're calling it a fertility ritual, but let's be real.
This is
let's
crazy,
call it
folks.
for what it is. It's a festival, and the footage coming out is absolutely insane. So what is this fertility festival? It's called Aludu. Originally, it was supposed to be about celebrating the community and praying for good crops. But this year, tradition became a cover for chaos. Mobs of men were caught on camera chasing women, stripping them, and assaulting them in broad daylight. It's disgusting. And the crazy part is that the community issued a warning for women to stay indoors if they don't want to get targeted. Like, stay inside or it's your fault. In 2026? Wild. Thankfully, the feds stepped in, and the Minister of Women Affairs went nuclear. The Delta Police have already arrested 16 people, including a high-ranking community leader. They're finally saying out loud that culture isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card for sexual assault. Nigeria is a different place, man.
Ready! Even the animals don't do that.
I don't want peace.
I want
problems, always. Ready. I want...
Gaddafi had 143 tons of gold. He was building one currency for all of Africa. No US dollar, no French franc, just African gold. France sent a memo to Hillary Clinton. It named the gold dinar as the primary reason for military intervention, not human rights, the currency. That memo is real. It was released under the Freedom of Information Act. It's on the State Department's own website right now. NATO bombed Libya for 7 months. Gaddafi was captured and killed on camera. The gold disappeared. Libya's central bank was one of the only banks in the world without Rothschild control before 2011. It got one within weeks of his death. Before he died, Gaddafi said, "They are coming for me because I tried to free Africa from financial slavery." The emails say he was right.
Was not Obama in charge at the time?
The reason why women shave their armpits and legs is because of an advertising campaign.
What?
The reason why you think you need 10,000 steps in order to be healthy is because of an advertising campaign. Diamond engagement ring, advertising campaign. Breakfast being the most important meal of the day, you guessed it, advertising campaign. Expiration dates on food, you would think those are there to keep you safe, right? If you thought that, you'd be wrong. It's just a corporate strategy for stock control, so you could buy more. 40-hour work week? Well, that was created by Henry Ford, so you could spend more money. But hey, cheers to the weekend, right? Almost every single thing that you consider normal was created by somebody to make money off of you or to get you to do exactly what they want you to do. But there's good news. If a lot of what we consider normal is just a series of marketing campaigns, well, then you have total permission to stop following the script.
Maybe it's time you create your own normal, seeing as the majority of things are made up anyway.
Yes, sir. It's all fake.
Native American DNA found in Icelanders, which means the Vikings dabbled. So the genetics is pretty new. Archaeology confirming it is a few decades old, but the sources have been telling us this for 700 years. We know exactly where the native DNA came from. 2 native children that the Vikings rescued. We even know their names. They were brought back to Greenland and Iceland.
What?
They learned each other's language, and they were raised and lived amongst the North.
Are you sure it's a rescue?
And they bred. The source telling about this is 700 years old, and as usual, people doubt the sagas are real, even scholars in the last 200 years, but time and time again, the more we uncover, the more they turn out to be true. Again and again and again. People need to start taking the saga seriously instead of letting their butthurt feelings not liking what they see determine history.
Over 100,000 people lost their jobs in February.
What?
100,000? Should we blame Trump? Is it the war? Or maybe people are just tired of going to work? How can you make America great again if people can't even go to work to buy food and pay their bills? Wait, we shouldn't be buying food and paying bills anyway. Is this something spiritual going on that we need to know about? This video is about to get a little dark and a little deep. Stay with me. I hear so many people saying, I don't want to work no more. Why should we go to work and work for a bunch of billionaires that's eating children? We have a point. I want people to understand something. This is all part of their plan. Why do you think they are releasing all these files? If these people are in a secret society, how did their secrets get out to the society? Maybe they want us to know about it. The so-called elites don't care if you quit your jobs. You know why? They don't need us no more. They don't need real people. Everything is about to be artificial intelligence. Did you hear what ChatGPT just did with the Pentagon? They are using AI against you. So if you was using ChatGPT to talk about your personal life, ChatGPT just copy and paste you. They love when people speak about their childhood trauma, relationship status, why you can't get a job, what religion you believe in. It's all about knowing you. AI is not dumb. People are dumb for letting AI think for them. Everything is dealing with rhythm.
Yeah.
We have rhythm. AI have the algorithm.
Ooh.
Notice how algorithm and rhythm kind of similar. These people want you to quit your job. And if you really want to quit your job, go ahead and do it. But remember, everything in this reality is about your energy. We all came here to build a system where we don't have to work for another system. You are supposed to work for yourself. Why go in a grocery store and buy fish when you can learn how to fish? Why keep buying fruit over and over when you can just buy seeds and plant your own? Learn how to clean your water. Learn how to think so you don't need people to think for you. You hear so many people say, release the file. Well, they're about to release your file.
What?
Because file is just the word life. Yes, you have been released from duty. Real soon, they're going to give all of us 2 options. You can go with the algorithm, AI, or you can take your ass back in nature and be in harmony. The choice will be yours.
The banking system is controlled ultimately from the spider and comes out into the scene as individual banks, but in the end, it's one bank, controlled by one web. So you have the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the European Central Bank, the World Bank, the central banks like the Federal Reserve in America are countries, and they're all controlled by the same web, and they're all operating to the same agenda. That's why they can crash the economy or lift the economy at will whenever they choose. Now, one of the major vehicles for this is the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. This is a private banking organization made up of the heads of the central banks of the countries of the world, where they meet regularly to orchestrate a common policy through all of them. This policy comes down from the Bank of International Settlements, down through national central banks. Why wouldn't it? The heads have decided it. Down through government economic policy and down to the people who have to suffer the consequences. The hidden hand comes down through secret societies, the financial elite, the banking system, government policy, and the people. That's how it works. And it's based on a criminal activity, organized crime, which is lending people money that doesn't exist, called credit, and charging them interest on it.
The Shroud
UK royals are behind everything going on.
of Turin is an excellent example.
Yeah, that one's an interesting one.
That's a weird one, man. There's a lot of people that go out of their way to try to disprove it, but the image of it is bizarre. You really only see Jesus when it's a negative of it, and they don't know how that image was put on there. It wasn't stained. It wasn't burned on there. They don't know what caused it. Like, it shows the lash marks on his body. It shows his facial features. It shows the holes where his wrist is, where he was crucified.
Because they've been debunking it for 650 years.
Well, but 650 years ago, they didn't even have carbon dating. So what were they doing to debunk it back then? There's a bunch of people that want to debunk it.
Hey, it's over for America, y'all. Babylon is falling. Y'all thought y'all were coming to America? Now, the Trump administration and the DOD has made it mandatory, if you're coming to the United States from these certain countries, that you must submit at least 5 years of social media history and some detailed information about your life. They talking about they're going to need a detailed examination of you and your family's history, including their information, and a detailed selfie of you so they can match up to everything that you ever posted online, y'all. America ain't free no more.
The memes might not be so funny anymore, at least for travelers looking to visit the U.S. The Trump administration says it could soon require visitors to submit 5 years of social media history. And if they find something they don't like, you could be barred from entering. Currently, citizens from countries participating in the visa waiver program, including the UK, Germany, and Australia, must register online and pay $40 before they're okay to travel to the United States for up to 90 days. But according to the Federal Registrar, the new rule would not only require applicants to share their social media, but undergo a more detailed examination of their history, including the names of family members and where they live, and a selfie of themselves. Let's bring it our
right there. The new rules that are being proposed include 5 years of social media history submitted, a detailed examination of a person's history, including the names of family members and where they live, and then that selfie that is submitted in addition to registering their passport. The visa waiver program allows countries, tourism rather, from those countries for up to 90 days, and it costs $40 to apply, and that is valid for 2 years. And so this would add another layer on top of that, but there's no doubt here that there's a lot of questions about how practical and legal and ethical this new mandate would be.
And what about private messages?
Yeah, and that's one of the questions, right, that a lot of people would have issue with if they needed to have their social media public. Then how far could the administration go to look at their private messages? But we've seen the administration go so far to say that they are monitoring people who are here for student visas, for example.
You see how she tried to snuck it up in there, but she's telling y'all that they are watching us, right? Remember, our phone take pictures of us like every second, y'all. Like, this shit is crazy. But there you go. This is part of the shift that I'm talking about, because you already know what America's shifting into. You already know, y'all. The land, the land is returning back. But yeah, the shift is here, y'all. Let me know what you guys think about this video. Let's continue to get it. Peace in.
Because anyone who's been anti-America don't get in. I mean, what's wrong with that?
Did you know that some of the largest stone blocks ever used in construction are sitting in an ancient temple complex in Lebanon? Welcome back to episode 41 of Ancient Site Sunday. Today, we're exploring Baalbek. Baalbek has been an important settlement for over 9,000 years, but it reached its peak under the Roman Empire when it became one of the grandest temple complexes in the ancient world, where thousands of pilgrims would come to venerate the Heliopolis triad, Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury. The Romans built Baalbek as a monumental temple city filled with exquisite examples of imperial Roman architecture. The Temple of Jupiter was once one of the largest temples in the entire Roman world. Only a few columns remain standing today, but they are over 20 meters high, giving a sense of just how massive the original structure must have been. Of course, we can't talk about Baalbek without mentioning the giant controversial stones. In the Temple of Jupiter's foundation lie some of the largest cut stone blocks ever used by humans, including the famous Trilithon, the 3 stones. Each of them measures over 19 meters long and weighs about 800 tons. There's also the stone of the pregnant woman that weighs over 1,000 tons.
What?
And even today, archaeologists are still debating exactly how these were transported and put into place. Big hint, it wasn't aliens. Also at Baalbek, we have the Temple of Bacchus, one of the best preserved Roman temples anywhere, with detailed carvings of vines, gods, and mythological scenes covering its walls. It also includes the smaller Temple of Venus, along with courtyards, altars, and ceremonial spaces that would have hosted religious rituals and large public gatherings. Over the centuries, Baalbek remained inhabited during Byzantine and Islamic periods, with new structures added and old ones repurposed, layering the site with different cultures and histories. In 1984, Baalbek was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for its outstanding architecture and its importance as one of the greatest Roman temple complexes ever built, which means it has legal protection under an international treaty administered by UNESCO. Just a reminder.
The interesting thing is, during the ice ages, we almost get wiped out. What's interesting about that is, as far as temperature goes, the poles have gotten much colder. You have ice covering Illinois, 2 kilometers of ice. That's uninhabitable. But you get south of 30 degrees latitude, not very different from today in terms of temperature. And so you would think you had 100,000 years, people would sort of migrate to an area where it was now pleasant. Trouble was, without CO2, which went down to about 180, there wasn't enough food for the people.
Oh, so there wasn't enough plant life.
Yeah. Get down to 160, 150, all life would die. It would be not enough food for anything.
What's it at now, like 240?
No, we're now 400 something.
How many people seen the No Kings protest on TV? If you didn't see it, did you protest with them? They want Trump going bad. Before I go deeper into this, I want people to understand, what do the No Kings protests really mean? The United States rejected the monarchy during the American Revolution. Basically, no one is more powerful than a law. So when people say No King's Day, they really mean a symbolic reminder that leaders are not rulers and are accountable for the people. This video is about to get a little dark and a little deep. Stay with me. No kings, no queens shall rule over no one. We are all equal in the eyes of the universe. So how the fuck are they kings? Who gave these people authority to rule over regular people? Now all of a sudden, this man is signing his signature on paper money, but they think he's the king. These people are playing chess with our emotions. They think we are slaves. We are the little pawns that's being moved forward. In this reality, time moves forward. Our birthdays are forward. Our death is forward. When we go to work, what do we receive? A check. You play chess and you lose. What do they say? Checkmate. So we go to work to get a check. And when we play the game chess, you lose when it's checkmate. Maybe we are losing when we are playing their game. There is no winner. There is no loser. It's just them taking our energy. I remember someone said the American dream is to keep the American people asleep. Maybe that's why when people get a little bit of spiritual knowledge, the first thing they say is, wake up. No one in the universe had permission to tell us what to do. But if you give someone your energy, it's like giving them your permission. It's always lights, camera, action. Action, lights, camera. But once again, who gave these people the power to make us pay taxes, mortgages, rent, bills? When people go to school, they got to take out student loans, then they're in debt before they even get out there in the real world. I don't know why they call it the real world. They should just say it's the slave system. No one can get these people power over you, and no one can take your power away. But if you want to give it away, that's a different story. Remember, these people eat, sleep, and shit just like us. So they're no better. But what if I told you we are actually better than them because we don't need their energy. They need our energy.
They will have to answer to the King of Kings.
So I'm just contemplating the whole Epstein thing. And I was just thinking, like, that might have been one of the best psyops ever done. I mean, 9/11 is not too far behind, but this Mossad agent is sent in from Israel as a sociopathic double agent. He's able to play this character of this rich guy, able to lure thousands probably of people into a space, blackmail them slowly and methodically, completely strategically to people who are already into this type of stuff and think that, oh, this is just another person who's into the dark shit. Then when they got all the info they need, they fake his death. It's a suicide, but not really a suicide. It's just an end of the character and a finishing of the mission. And all those files are compiled and ready to be used for very specific agendas and purposes, probably to help usher in a new world order. Break faith in old world systems so that people will be more willing to accept a new structure of control. Okay, I might not have the full picture here, but that's kind of the overview. I think people greatly misunderestimate how fucking insanely intelligent ability of these sociopathic people to lie and to create webs of blackmail and distortion. But who remains hiding behind the shadows is the elites who really do the dark shit on an extremely high level. And they love to scapegoat people, to accuse, to get other people to take the blame while they stay hidden in the shadows. So as far as the Epstein mission, well done, well played. It's on us as the everyday person to wake up and to develop a deeper level of consciousness so we don't go fall prey to these psyops. All right, I love you guys. I hope this helped. Let me know what you think in the comments.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. I forget who said that.
Even in this version, the one they still teach, the deception is visible if you care to see it. How did Gilgamesh defeat Humbaba? The epic itself tells us.
Who the heck is Humbaba?
He tricked him. He promised that if Humbaba would surrender, he'd make him family. He would give him his own daughter in marriage. The lonely guardian, starved for connection, dropped his guard, and then Gilgamesh struck.
Oh.
Does that sound like a hero to you? This is the version that they kept. Even here, the hero wins through lies, through false kinship, through a betrayal so cold that it could make any reader pause. The victim was not a rampaging monster. He was someone who trusted the wrong king and was slaughtered for it. Now imagine what the other side recorded in the Book of Giants, the tradition that was buried, the scroll that names Gilgamesh among the corrupted horde. In that record, there's no pretense. The cedar forward was sacred.
Okay.
How does Francis Bacon's story track with Plato's description of Atlantis?
Different, because he's clearly sourcing back to Plato.
Sure.
But then he's also talking about all kinds of things that Plato doesn't talk about. And he talks about like medicines that need to be developed along with the technologies. You know, he just says it needs to be reestablished. The new Atlantis needs to be established.
And does that become a Templar mission?
That becomes the Templar mission, yeah. Well, originally the Royal Society was established in England to try to create these ideas of Francis Bacon. And then that was brought over into the establishment of the United States, then became the main New Atlantis model to develop these things and perpetuate them.
I found out about this emperor who allegedly married a meteorite. Do you know
what is a meteorite?
I'm talking about?
So Augustus, who's the first emperor, he's the adopted son of Julius Caesar.
Okay.
One of the things he does after Caesar dies is he decides they're going to deify him. Basically, they're going to say Caesar was a god. And one of the things he uses to justify this is actually a comet going across the sky. And as the comet goes across the sky, he goes, oh, that's Julius Caesar going to take his place with the gods. Whoa. And he used that as a big symbolism, because the interesting thing you have to consider, right, by association, if your adopted father is a god, well, what does that make you, right? And I think that's a really interesting way to look at propaganda.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea of meteors and comets for ancient peoples were very, very important, because they could also be used however they wanted to use them.
Was that propaganda used just like within the elite class back then, or was that something that the Romans were looking at or hearing about as it was happening?
That would likely be more for regular people, because even the discussions around Roman religion, like Julius Caesar held the office earlier in his career of Pontifex Maximus, which is the chief priest of Rome. And they were often questions about, well, does Caesar even believe in the Roman gods? So it's kind of interesting the way elites viewed their gods. They were useful when needed and ignored when not needed.